Welcome, everybody. We'll be getting started in just a few moments here. As the handy screen says that Paul put up, if you, it'd be great if everyone introduced themselves in the chat. So my name's Cody. I look after developer experience here at Century, and then Paul's going to lead the first part of this workshop. Paul, give him a little intro.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paul. As Cody said, I'm on the developer experience team here at Century. We're also going to have a couple other friends of ours. Kyle and Lazar will be in the chat helping us, filter through questions and whatnot. Um, I'm out here in Brooklyn, New York, so I'm excited to see where everybody else is.
What's up, Matt? Love to see the work that Augment's doing. Big fan of Augment. Love that one. Area 51. I'm curious to see what kind of internet speeds you get out of Area 51. That's great. It's great. Give about just one more minute, then we can kick off, Paul. So we're gonna cover a lot of fun stuff today. We're gonna go through and cover so basics on like the new logs product that we're rolling out, a little bit of tracing, but then we're going to dive right into everything AI related. So all things Seer, all things MCP. So we'll dive into the Sentry MCP and get everyone wired up to use that. We'll get into agent monitoring a bit and show everyone how that's playing out. That's a brand new feature. So excited to get that in front of everybody. And then we'll also play with another brand new feature, the AI PR review stuff. So it's gonna be a fun one today. This one's gonna be action packed, which sounds really funny to say about a SaaS based live stream, but here we are. We're doing our best. Looks like the numbers of joining are slowing down, Paul. So let's kick it.
All right, everybody. Yeah, as Cody mentioned, a lot of exciting stuff to get through here. Uh, First things first, we're gonna set up an application and get Sentry integrated into it. Um, I think that's always helpful in these sorts of contexts to see how you get things up and running from the ground up. We have a React and Node application, which is also using a very fun cloud native Postgres database from Neon. Some cool stuff there. So yeah, we're going to dig into error and exception handling throughout the app, um, and see how that propagates into our Sentry accounts. As Cody mentioned, we're going to be demoing Seer, which is our AI agent debugger, that helps provide root cause analysis for the Sentry issues that we have in our account. And it also has the ability to auto-generate some fixes and even open PRs on our behalf. Just to like really help the workflow and keep everything nice and tidy. Yeah, we're also going to be exploring the Sentry MCP server, which is a nice addition to that to really provide all that like rich Sentry context that we have that Sentry has captured for us. We're going to be able to use that in our LLM of choice, and that just creates this fantastic brave new world of integration and so you get a chance to chain together different tool calls and workflows and really just get cover a ton of ground. It's great. And also, yeah, the AI agent monitoring. That's a relatively new one for us. If you have an application that uses an AI agent, perhaps the OpenAI SDK, you now have the ability with your Sentry account to debug and track the performance of the like the different tool usage, tool usage, token usage, different like duration of calls. It's some really fascinating insights that you can get from your LLM. So wins all around. Everyone wins today. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A couple housekeeping items up front. If you are in Zoom, you can use the Q&A module to help us with the influx of questions that come in. We're going to be monitoring the chat and all the other platforms as well. Yeah, we like these to be interactive. So anything that crosses your mind, send it our way. We'll try to get into it. The recording of this will be available not long after the workshop. So hopefully that way you'll be able to revisit. You'll have the guide and you'll have the video to walk through an experiment on your own. Cool. Everybody sound cool? I'll take that as yes. So yeah, just a quick going a little further with an upfront. We're going to set up the app. Our application today is it's an online course platform, like a learning platform similar to like a Udemy or a Coursera. We'll get Sentry integrated into it. We'll go through some specific steps based on our stack, things like React Router and source maps and things that will just make sure that we get the best in and out, the best information in and out of Sentry. We'll set up a couple projects in Sentry, so we see what that looks like. We'll trigger some errors in our app. Our app is full of bugs because we like to have fun, and we'll see how that looks in Sentry, and then we'll dig into some of the AI offering that we have to start fixing those things. If you follow the instructions, you have a link to the guide, which we'll be following along with. I will drop that in chat just in case, just so that we all have it. Cool. And from there, I'll get a little oriented here with my screen real estate and we will get going. Great. Bye. Oh, that's what.
Yep, you are all good, sir.
Perfecto. Great. So I'll just hop right into it. As far as the quick start guide is concerned, I'm not going to read through every bit of this, but as you follow along, this should be helpful. A very important point here: if you've been to one of our workshops in the past, where you would clone a repo and get rolling, this one's a little bit different. We're going to have to, first things first, go to the repo, get a fork for yourself, fork that repo. And then there's an additional step that if you go into the settings of your fork, you'll scroll down to the danger zone, and we want you to leave the fork network, choose this option here. And this is really just because when we start getting into Seer, it has the ability to open PRs on your behalf. And we didn't want, an influx of PRs coming into the source. So this keeps you nice and isolated and gets you up and running. So from there, you'll clone your fork to your local machine. So I'll just give everybody a second to catch up with that. Make sure you follow those steps. That's going to be an important one. Cool. Excellent. All right, so I've already got the repo pulled down myself. First things first, you can just go ahead and install our dependencies. We're using PNPM in this case. You can let that rip and get caught up there. And from there, actually, before I get into some more specifics, I'm going to pull up the application just so we have a sense of what we're working with. So if you have the workshop cloned, your fork locally, you'll notice there's an apps subdirectory. And inside there, we have the front end and the back end and the server. This is pretty much where we're going to be spending a lot of our time. But just so we know what we're looking at, we've got a React front end and our Node back end all nice and tidy in here. Cool. So all you really need to do to set up your environment variables is grab this whole command, and we'll set up a port in our server. So you can just grab this and put it, drop it into your terminal. Mine is already in place. You should end up with an environment variable in the server directory, which has a port of 3001. That just lets us keep clear of the front end. Cool. And this is where I'll join the party. This is where we set up our sort of ephemeral Neon database. So all you have to do is drop this command in, like so, and it's going to pop us out to the web. And lo and behold, it was that easy. We now have a Postgres database that we can use for whatever we choose. And you notice in doing that, what it also did. Ooh, let me try that again. Of course. Right, database URL. Oh, I know why. My bad. I need to do that inside the server directory. So if I go into apps, server, let's try that again. Cool. So there's our database. And in doing so, it's going to add into our environment variables the database URL and some other important information. But everyone can do that. Let it rip. You'll have a database ready to roll, and that will serve you well. Zoom controls are getting right in my way.
Fortunately, we we don't see them on our side, so you're all good.
Perfect.
Yeah, the cool thing about using the neon DB here is like you have all of this able to actually run live inside of an actual database. We're not running this locally, so when we start getting into like tracing and you start exploring the different ways that you're actually like getting data through your application, we'll be able to see like real trace information around those database calls. And so like it's not going to be like the 2 millisecond latency that you would see locally. It's going to be, like actually what you would see in like a real production environment. So we really like to make these as realistic as possible. Like obviously we're in a workshop here that we've scripted out, but the more we can make this feel authentic and real, the better off we can.
Indeed. So once we have our database set up, we're going to go ahead and we're using Drizzle as our ORM. So we're just going to set up our schema, get things seeded. So just grab this full command. Make sure you're still in the server directory, as I made that mistake earlier. So we'll go ahead and let that rip. It's going to set up all of our tables, get our schema set up, and everything works correctly. Perfecto. It's what I wanted to see. Great. Cool. So from there, we'll back out, back to the couple steps up into the root, and we can run our pm dev command. And from there, we'll see on localhost 51, port 5173, we should have our application. All right, we're covering serious ground here. Awesome. Like I said, our app is full of bugs, so you'll notice if I try to log in, I'm getting a number of issues here, something related to the login signature. And so we are gonna start to get Sentry integrated so that we can start to see what that's all about. Great. Cool. So from here, we're gonna start pulling in Sentry. Sentry is an SDK, so some really helpful developer experience. There's no proxies or external services or anything. You just install it, get some things configured, and you're good to go. We will have two projects in Sentry, one for the front end and one for the back end. We like to always tell folks to keep those separate so you have much better time monitoring different things, different source maps, from each application. It's much simpler to have them separated out. So from here, I'm actually going to go, before we get rolling with pulling Sentry in, I'm going to go to my Sentry account, my free account, and I'm just going to set up a couple of projects, and you'll see why I need to do that. First things first, I'm going to set up my front end. So I'm going to choose React. I'll name it something like AI Workshop front front end front end. Cool. And I'll add that to my organization that I'm a part of. And you'll get some steps here that outside of this workshop are pretty handy. This is probably the route you would take to get up and running. We're not going to follow these explicitly in this context, but what I do need from here is the DSN number for this project. And what's a DSN number? It's basically just like a unique identifier for this project. It helps set up auth and get like the pipeline moving between our app and Sentry. And I'm going to need that to integrate in my application. So I'm just going to grab that and leave the rest behind for now. And now back in our application, I'm going to pull in the Sentry SDK. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. We're using a PNPM workspace. So we have the filter flag. It knows exactly where to install things. So you can basically do this from anywhere in the repo at this point. Great. Get that up and running. And now we need to start instrumenting our Sentry instance. So in our front end source folder, we're going to add an instrument. Great. From here, I'm just going to grab this whole, this is where the fun copy and paste journey begins. Inside here is where we're going to add our DSN number that we grabbed from our Sentry account. So I will just plop that in. Great. And I'll finish the front end and then we'll do the same for the node repo as well, or project. Cool. So now that I've instrumented Sentry, I need to import that into my entry point of the front end, which is main.tsx. I'm just going to grab this whole block. Very important note here, we instrumented Sentry in a separate module. We're now importing it into our app. You always want to make sure that import of the instrument is tippity top of everything that's going on here. I learned that recently the hard way, that if it's anywhere below that, before the life cycle of your app is up and running, you'll run into some issues with certain features not working in the auto instrumentation. So you always want to make sure that that's the first thing that's happening in your application. Cool. If you're a React developer, you're familiar with error boundaries. We're just going to set up one of these as like a nice, graceful way to, grab our errors and use our Sentry, like capture our exceptions and make sure that things like look clean in the way that we want them to. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in my components root. Error boundary. Thank you very much. Let's grab this whole thing. Perfect. Cool. And now we need to set up the app to use a React router, as well as that error boundary. So in our main app module, we are going to add a couple of things here. A couple more imports. We'll get Sentry in here, as well as our error boundary. And then, this as well, our routes. Cool. And then from here, we're just going to replace this whole protected route so that we have React Router functioning as we'd expect. So I'm just going to grab all this.
And just real quick, just to step back 1 second. Inside of that initialization that we built out, there's a couple things going on in there that are worth calling out. So like right now, Paul's going through and showing you how to get React Router up and running, like inside of Sentry, and making sure we're monitoring that, because there's some special things that we can do to add on. But if you look at inside of your guide and you take a look at what's happening inside of that initialization, there's a bunch of things we're bringing in, like browser tracing by default. We're bringing in replays so that when users start using your applications, you're going to get session replays for how they're interacting with your application. We are bringing in obviously like that React router integration there as well. We're turning on logs, and logs is huge because like you can start using logs immediately. Like your applications might not have errors right out of the gate, but you will certainly start sending logs through. And so we turn on logs. We turn on our trace sample rate so that we're actually capturing traces. And so there's a lot of stuff that happens inside of this config. And the more you use Sentry, the more you'll end up interacting with this configuration. I mean, once you get it tuned to a good place, you'll generally leave it alone. But as you want to go in and adjust things like your sample rates to make sure that you're controlling the amount of data flowing in, you want to be able to enable different functionality or different add-ons that we support. All of those things are configured largely inside of this. So you'll want to get kind of familiar with what this is and what it's doing. Like in the workshop, obviously we kind of copy and paste, but there's a lot of stuff going on in here that's worth diving into and worth exploring.
Indeed, yeah. Appreciate the call out. Yeah, as Cody mentioned, the logs is in a beta state right now, so we're flipping on this experimental flag to get that rolling. If you're familiar with logs in other products, generally the workflow is like you'll get a whole bunch of things dumped in, and then it's up to you to maybe open it in your IDE and try to parse through. And Sentry has this wonderful structured logs UI now where you can pump things in there, and then you're able to search, make different queries on different parts of your logs, and really just brings it into like a much more useful experience. Yeah, and an important one is the sample rate, which right now we're at 1 or effectively 100%, which means we're just going to be grabbing all of the issues that come up. For this purpose that works. You probably tune that down a little bit, once you get up and running in production. So cool. Now that we have all that set up, we're going to dip into our Sentry wizard to get our source maps set up, and it's going to help us set up a Vite plugin that's going to take care of a lot of the magic for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Cool. And we're introduced to the wizard, and it's going to ask us a few things. As you can see in the guide, you'll see what the appropriate responses are here. So I'm just going to drop through these pretty quickly. I'm going to say yes for my files. The SaaS version. Do I already have a Sentry account? Yes, I do. So this is going to pull us out and give us a chance to bind this to the project that we set up. So here's my org, and then I'm going to choose my front end project that we set up initially. Great. So that's a big help. And I'll go back to the wizard and make sure we're wrapping up here. Vite is our build tool. Say yes. And PNPM is our package manager that we're using today. So once you let all that rip, the plugin will add this information to our gitignore file. We already have that, so that's why we're getting this error, but that's actually fine. And we're not using a CI/CD tool yet today. Okay, great. So that is the front end. We're instrumented on the front end. We're just going to quickly go through the back end. It's not as robust in terms of the steps. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that like we were doing the first time around. I'm going to add my Node SDK. I'm going to set up another instrument file in the server directory. That was server. Cool. Put that in there. And this is where we're going to go ahead and set up our additional project in our Sentry account. So if I go here, projects, I'm going to go ahead, set up a new one. This is going to be Node. As you can see, Sentry services plenty. We've got SDKs for days. If you ever can't find what you're looking for, you can just filter it down here up top. So we have our Node app. Great. And I'll just call this AI. Great. We're using Express. We're just going to get all that rolling. Great. And this is where I'll grab my DSN for this project. Cool. Whoops. Bad paste. Still a bad paste. There we go. And of course, we have logs enabled here as well as our sample rate. Excellent. Now we need to import this as well. And in this case, it's in our the entry point is our index file. So I'll go ahead and grab that, Command P. And here we're going to drop in those imports. And this is the tricky thing where make sure this is at the very top. We want to make sure that's happening first. We've got Sentry added. We're going to set up our error handler for Express. That's going to be after our routes and before any of the other error handling. So right about there, looks good. Awesome. And now we are going to roll with our source maps for this application as well. So I'm going to go ahead and back up to my server and let that rip. And this is largely going to be the same, except for, well, we'll bind this to our backend account that we just set up. There she is. Awesome. Oh, and I'll wrap up. We're using ESBuild and PNPM. Now, this additional step here is we need to pull in the ESBuild plugin into our plugin section of our build process. So I'm just going to go grab this. It's asking me, did I copy this? We'll go ahead in our build process. In this application is in build.js. And in our plugins array, we just need to add our build plugin. Perfect. And let's see, finish up the wizard. Perfect. Excellent. This is the reminder to add our plugin here. And with all that in place, we have a front end and a back end application that is all instrumented with Sentry. And so what I'm going to do is back out of what we had running, since we already had that, and I'm going to run our dev command again. Cool. Just going to make sure I was expecting to see some logger information there. Let me just make sure we're all in good place here. Okay. Give that a whirl again. Make sure that is all set. Using environment variables. Cody, I don't know if you have any insight. I was expecting to see the all the logger information roll up here.
Looks like I saw someone comment on in the chat that this was in the wrong spot, but I don't think it actually is. Go check out your server instrumentation file. So pop into cursor and go into on the server side to make sure that you put it in source modules instead.
Oh,
So put
that's the oh, I see.
yeah, so move it down in
Right.
parallel to index.ts. There you go.
That's the trick.
And then make sure that your import is correct inside of index.ts.
Of course.
Yep. Now go
Yep.
ahead and try it again. Somebody, one of the guys, kick Pablo a shirt in DM. Drop him a message and kick him a code.
Ah, yes, there we go. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. As you can see, we got everything instrumented and integrated here. So we're starting to see more information, different all the useful stuff that's coming in from Sentry we now see is working. So perfect. Teamwork, guys. Appreciate that. And so now we have our front end, our application, our full stack application, and we now see that because we are instrumented, we still have the errors that we were coming up against. And if I pop into my Sentry account, I should start to see in a minute or so, these errors will start to populate in here. And there they are. We now, with some basic instrumentation, now have Sentry up and running, and it's collecting errors as we had hoped. Another thing we need to step through really quick, now that that's set, is we need to configure our Sentry account with GitHub, and this is going to help us further down the line use the Seer features where we're opening pull requests and whatnot. So if you go to your organization settings, which we have a link to here, and go to integrations, we're going to go ahead and go into GitHub, and I've been through this a couple times, so that the state may look a little bit different for you, but I'm going to authorize the GitHub app with Sentry. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Oh, there we go. Sure. Excellent. And then we want to configure that. I'm going to give it access only to the forked repo, just to keep things clean. Right. So we're going to install that. Oh boy. Stand by. Cody's got some interesting things to talk about while I auth here.
Yep. So obviously like the GitHub with its strict passkey login stuff always bites us. But getting the repo in is a really good thing because it's going to let Seer and the different things that we use be able to see your actual code base, but also see your commit history. And so like as we start looking at the root cause for things that are going wrong inside of your environments, being able to link up to that is obviously super valuable. And so like being able to have the code base available and all the stuff that GitHub gives us is a very useful thing.
I'm just going to keep rolling on this so I get things set up. Give this a whirl. Great. So now that I have that installed, I'm going to make sure that I have that repo added in place here. Perfect. Live demos. Love them. Okay. So now that we have that all set up, we're going to trot on back to the guide. And this just walks through some of those steps to make sure that you get through that flow. Like I said, what you see may look a little different than what was on the screen for me, but we should be set at this point on my end. Cool. So we are gonna start looking into bringing in Sentry a little deeper and starting to get a better sense of what's going on with that login error that we saw initially. So to do so, I'm going to go into my login form on the front end of this application and just bring in Sentry at that point. And because things are all initialized, we don't need to do that again. We just have access to Sentry in our application. So we are good to go. We're going to bring in our logger at this point so that we can have access to all the APIs to utilize that throughout this implementation. Cool. And now we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this whole function here and replace our handle SSO function just in the interest of time. As you can see at this point, our handle SSO is a pretty lean function. We're setting up some user credentials, and then we are creating a login signature with those credentials and having it do its thing. But in our new and improved version, we're going to add quite a bit more. Great. And so let's take a beat here and look at what this new SSO function is doing. We're starting to add in some custom spans in Sentry. Now, when we instrumented both the front and the back end, there's a lot of, Sentry has a great DX and it's going to instrument a lot of things for you. All the things I'll say most of the things you would expect in your API calls and that sort of thing. Some of the basic functionality is going to be instrumented for you. But in this case, we are adding a custom span, and that allows us to add a bit more metadata to this so that we can query for it in the Sentry UI and get clearer insight as to what's going on. So we set some attributes once we have them, and yeah, this is how you would set up a custom span. Um, so now that we've done that, uh, that's set up. So I'm going to go back to the application, hit that error again, and see what I see. So we go back to our app, give it a refresh just to know we're clear. Hit that error a couple more times, and then in Sentry, what I want to do is go to this explore option over here, and I'm going to explore the traces. Now we can see there's a lot of spans and things that are going on in here. What we want to do is filter down. We essentially gave this a name of SSO authentication front end. So here's where we start to get into some of the useful tools in the Sentry UI about filtering and surfacing information, like I was talking about earlier. So you can type this out freehand. We have these helpful options as well. So span description is SSO authentication front end. And so now we've filtered out the spans that we received on that recent error since we updated and added that customization in. If I step into one of these, you get the whole trace waterfall. Actually, let me go to this first one down here. And you can start to see what is happening. We had the page load with our login form. There were some clicks that were going on. We tried to log in to the page, but by clicking the buttons, and that hit our server, and that's when things started to fall apart, which is what we expected. But this is helpful to be able to walk through and see what's going on. And if we see, let's see, we can see our login signature on the front end looks to be defined. And we saw in that error there was something going on with our login signature. So starting to piece together a little bit what's going on here. There seems to be the front end seems to be working okay. And if I go back, come on, Zoom, get out of the way. So that's what this is describing here. Some images of what we just walked through. And you can also, while we're here, we're also going to look at the logs. So if we explore logs, this is where we start to get some really useful information throughout all these errors. These are parsed out separately here, and you can use the same search queries at the top to help you dig in to those issues. And if you'll notice, actually, if I drop back to this error back here, all the information that we're seeing here is we have our session replay, which is not something I talked about up front, but you have a nice way to sort of like capture the session and the error that the user was seeing at the time. We have some breadcrumbs that talk about like the events that led up to the issue. And lo and behold, we have the logs that are actually associated with this error. They're all here. So everything is really easily accessible. And we have our trace waterfall as well. So really helpful just to have everything at your disposal and to get you where you need to be. So we're going to go ahead and do the backend as well really quick just to make sure we have that working as well. So in our routes, let's see, in our routes module, we are going to do some more copy and pasting. Right. And bring in our logger here as well. And again, the SSO provider, we're going to introduce some custom spans to this as well. So I'm just going to go find that function and just give it a good old copy paste here.
A quick comment on why we're doing custom spans here instead while Paul's working through this. We capture most of this stuff already anyways as part of the automatic instrumentation inside of Sentry. So we're capturing a bunch of these spans, but the thing is like what we're doing is we're capturing all of these spans. And so sometimes it's hard to find specific information that you might want. And so what we're doing here is we're creating these custom spans so that we can actually go in and put the right info, or not right information, but we can start to surface specific information that we want to be able to capture as part of these traces overall. What's the difference between using custom span versus breadcrumbs? Great question, Ricardo. Breadcrumbs are the interactions through an app, so the different like touch points and different actions. So, for example, if you were looking at the breadcrumb for buying something from a store, it might look like I search for item searched, I click button to buy, I click button to buy, right? So these are breadcrumbs initial steps, but a span is the action and like the properties that are associated with that. And so one of them is more like user, like air quotes, user journey things and like steps along the way, whereas a span is the communication flow, and then we can add attributes into that span that are searchable. So breadcrumbs usually aren't like independently searchable, but you can do that with, you can, but it's a little bit different. Tracing and spans ultimately lets us put these attributes in that we can start to measure against, we can create alerts off of, we can do searches for, we can do aggregations off of. So there's a lot more you get when you start to use custom spans in this way, and you can really filter it down to the information that really matters to you, and it makes it a lot easier for you to debug. So it's a little bit of an investment in the sense of instrumenting these, but once you have them in place, you can make sure you're getting exactly the things you want back out of it.
Right. Yeah. Good call. So now that I instrumented this on the back end as well, I just went through the same flow while Cody was talking, where I went to traces, I filtered down by authentication server this time, and now I have just those spans to look through as well. And now, interestingly enough, as I piece these things together, I'm looking to see if my nope signature. And as we saw on the front end, our login signature was provided. We got that information out of this span. And now I instrumented the back end. I went through the same flow, and I can see here that there's an issue here. The login signature is not provided. So we're really starting to get a sense of where this is going, and how Sentry can help us find these issues. Same thing with logs here as well. You can dip into those and find useful stuff. But let's get to the meat of the matter. This is why everyone's here, or at least I would assume why most people are here, is in our Sentry account. If you noticed, if we go back to the issues, we'll go to this backend issue. We have Seer, which is like I said, our AI debugging agent. So we are going to step through really quick what it looks like to have our robot friends try to step through what I just did, where I had to like look through some things, sift through some logs. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just find out what that was with even less effort? So I'm going to go over here and click root cause, find root cause, and Seer. This is, if you can see the Seer module here. It's going to ask us to set up the settings for this project, which we're going to go ahead and do. We set up the GitHub integration, and we're just going to configure settings real quick for this. This is a nice place to take a quick pause and talk a little bit more about Seer, because we're just going to go ahead and add the repo. So the connection is there. But up top here, we have these automation settings, and that is our opportunity to sort of have a little bit more control over what Seer is going to be doing for us. So right now we have the scan issues. It's going to go through and see the issues that we have in Sentry and sort of like start to put together that root cause analysis. And then once it has that, you have the option to do something with it. And I'll go, well, I'll set this and we'll take a look real quick. Once it has its root cause analysis, you can set your auto trigger fix level, if you will. And so this is just basically like a threshold of what sorts of errors you want to have it fix. I'm gonna YOLO it and just say everything for now. And then with that, on the flip side is the stopping point of the auto trigger. And this will make a little bit more sense when I walk through Seer, the UI. But basically, you can set it to make those, it gets a root cause analysis. Then we can take it a step further and have it code up the changes for that. And then we can even go all the way and close the loop and have it open a PR for us, which is just Awesome. Amazing. I'm going to leave it here at the solution, and we'll see why when we dig into that. I'm going to do this on both projects really quick, just so that we're set. Um, so that was the back end. So I'm just going to go ahead and sear here and do the same thing. Just make sure the repo is added and configure my settings so they're good to go. Cool.
Yep. While Paul goes and starts these on both of the projects and gets them running, they do take a little bit to run. The idea here is to let Seer be able to go in and calculate out how confident it is in being able to fix a problem, right? So what it does, it's looking at this and it's taking kind of an initial read on what that problem that initially came through is. So for example, in our case, it was an error with like the login. And so it has a lot of telemetry data around what's happening there. And so it's able to take all of this and start chewing on it. And it can do a very quick gauge of, yeah, you know what? I think that I can fix this one. I think this one is one that I'm going to be able to solve for. And so it issues something called a fixability score to it. That fixability score is how that automation starts to determine, hey, can I go and should I go and run automatically? It's going to go through and it's going to do exactly what Paul just went through and clicked on. Instead of him going to have to click that button, it's just going to go kick that off by default and run in the background. You can configure this to be like very permissive or non-permissive in the sense of if it's a very low fixability score, maybe you don't want it to take a shot at it. I generally go a little more aggressive on it in the sense like I want the information that's going to come back and like I know that Seer is pulling a ton of information across traces, it's pulling stack traces out, it's pulling logs, it's pulling my repo, it's doing rag search and going out to like the internet and taking all of that stuff to try and find more information. And so all that stuff is being taken into account. So I'm generally pretty confident in it doing a deep dive. And I'm fine with it going and doing automation all the way through the PR because I think that like if uh, if there's a 20% chance that it's right, and usually it's much higher. We've done a bunch of benchmarks and it's in the high 80s, 90% in most commonly. But like if there's even a 20% chance that it's going to lock it in, I'd rather just have the PR there that I can review and then go ahead and implement if it's right. So I generally am a little bit more permissive on it.
Cool. Yeah, so basically I've just been following the guide. I went in and set up the settings for this project, and I clicked find root cause, and that's when the analysis starts going to town, as we can see here. It's pulling in all the context, it's pulling in all, looking through spans, logs, all the different things that traces that it has access to, and it's figuring out what to do. At this point, it's already gone through the root cause, it's determined what it is, and now it's looking to take it to the next step.
Now, what's
Uh,
really cool about this also that a lot of people don't realize and we don't talk about enough is all of those insights that it's finding are able to be interacted with. And so like
mm,
it's really actually an agent in the sense that it is going and doing multiple tasks autonomously and you can change its behavior by starting to interact with it. So any of those insights on the top, Paul could click into and say, actually, this one's not true. Scrap this one, not the case. Conversely, you can go down to the bottom and start to interact with it more, interrupt it and tell it, hey, you're on a way wrong course. So you do get this idea of being able to have like back and forth interaction with it, which is what we want. And we want people to be able to interact with this instead of just leaving it alone in the space that you can, but you're going to be able to give it more context as you go because ultimately you know your code base in most cases. But it looks like it found a solution, Paul.
yeah, it went through, did all its thing as Cody described, and now if you think back to the settings we were talking about, we did the root cause analysis, figured out exactly what it was, and now it's offering like, okay, next step, I could code the solution for you, and we can go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and see what that gets us. So this will kick up again, and then we'll go through the process to uh, solve the problems that we have in our life at this
So
point.
while this is running, Paul, we're running pretty long on time. Why don't
Mm,
you start setting up the MCP server for like the next section?
yeah,
Because this will run in the background, and then you can show pulling that in as part of the MCP step.
right.
That way we make it through because there's a lot of stuff.
Indeed. Um, Yeah, just to sort of streamline some things here. Spoiler alert, the issue that we had in our application in our login um, was in our let's find it. The SSO login. So as you can see, we have our login signature here, and we're just not passing it in. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop that in. And lo and behold, when I revisit our application and I try to log in, there we are. We're in our application, which is great. Only we have a number of other bugs as well. If I go to search for one of these courses, say tracing, I'm going to find that there's an issue there, some sort of query parameter not getting what it needs. So cool. And as you can see, just in time, Seer came up with the exact fix that I just implemented. So I can open a PR for that if I want to. I'm gonna, as Cody said, I'm just gonna move on just so we get a little further along here. But as you can see, that was our fix. Seer found it for us. Pretty great if you're new to a code base and you don't know your way around, you're actually able to implement fixes on day one. So we're over here in the next module now for solving the search issue. So we know that we have an issue here. I'm gonna go ahead and look at that one more time in our Sentry feed. As you can see here, we have these new errors with the query parameter as we saw, and same information that we have everywhere else that we've been through today. So we're going to take this a little bit further and start to dig into our MCP server. And if you're new to that, as most of us are at this point, MCP server is just going to allow you to bring in a lot more all that Sentry context that we have available to us in the web app. We're able to sort of like extend and have those tool calls, get them into our LLM so that in our case, I'm using Cursor, and I'll be able to just pull in that information locally instead of having to dip back and forth between my environments and start to put things together, in locally. So I'm just going to go ahead and set up. I'm using, like I said, I'm using Cursor. So there's some steps here for you to get that up and running. Run through that real quick. So I'm just going to go into my Cursor settings, tools and integrations. I'm going to add a custom MCP server. I'll grab what we have in the guide, right? I'm just going to pop this into place. Cool. And when I bounce back out, it's telling me, in some cases, you may need to log in. In some cases, you could be authenticated right off the bat. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure this is logged in.
And the reason, real quick, the reason for this is because we've done is we want MCP to be a low friction experience for users inside a Sentry. We don't want you to have to go generate an API token, run it locally, clone a repo down, all of this stuff that like is really just a bad DX overall. What we want to do is we want to make it really easy for you to go in and just start consuming it. And so we've made it this remotely hosted MCP server. It uses OAuth. So when you come in under in Sentry, you'll be getting whatever your actual account has access to is the data that you'll be able to pull out of it. And so we again really focused on making this a low friction experience, even though he's like Paul's having a little stumble on the auth side right now on his side, probably because we've removed it and re-added it about 1 million times as part of this.
Perhaps, yeah. Okay, let's make it happen. Huh.
Go ahead and disable it and re-enable it.
There we go.
It goes. Just
yeah. As things are coming along, yeah, you may find little funny things like that along the way. So now I have the Sentry MCP server integrated into Cursor. And if I open this up, I can see these are all the different tool calls that I have available to me from Sentry, which is fantastic. So now if I head back to my issues here, I'm going to go ahead and let Seer, view a solution. Great. Make sure I have the right query param issue. Yes, perfect. So right here, we already have a root cause and everything that's ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and code this up and let this run in the background here. And once that is up and running, what I'm looking to do here is, like I said, I want to close the loop on this sort of feedback loop. I've authenticated. I've got this all set up. Another thing to mention is we're doing this sort of like manually through Cursor. Alternatively, we have this web client that you can experiment with and visit this URL, and it'll allow you to play around and try some different things. But as this is running in Seer, I know right. We have the solution here is when we're searching, our front end is using the word query. Our back end is just using Q. So there's a mismatch here. So Seer found the issue for me. So that's fantastic. And it's been I've taken it to the point where I could open a PR now if I were to choose. And so what I'm going to do now is uh, now that I'm connected with my MCP server through Cursor, I can just bring this up in a very conversational sort of way and just try to get some information on what's going on in my Sentry account. So in Cursor here, I'm going to say, I might change this up a little bit. Tell me about the issues. Let's start here. Tell me about the organ is I have access to in Sentry. Your mileage may vary in terms of how you yeah, choose to prompt things, but as we can see, we're already starting to dip into these tool calls. And so it's going to go ahead and find organizations that I'm associated with, because what I really want to do is get into that issue at hand. Cool. So here's my org, and I'm going to say, tell me about the issues in this project. Developer.
Now, what's really cool about MCP, while Paul's typing this up, is MCP is smart enough to go and iterate. And so, in reality, Paul could have said, "Hey, tell me about all the issues inside of Sentry." And what it'll do is it'll start iterating through them and find recent ones. Now, it's a little complicated for Paul's because of his test environment being how it is, but MCP will actually go and like intelligently try to find more information about what you've asked it for. And so, like a lot of how these tool calls work inside of MCP is really structured around how to give the LLM enough knowledge about what it can go and find on its own. And we've really built the MCP to be something that's very flexible to where you should be able to install the MCP, pop into any of these tools, Cursor, Claude directly, Claude Code, which is what I tend to spend most of my time in. And you can say, I want to find all the issues inside of my environment and fix them. And Claude will know, or whatever LLM you're using will know, I have tools that can find this, and I'm just going to keep calling them to find all of the possibilities here.
Yeah, totally. So basically, I had it look through the open issues that I had in this project. It found the one that I have in question with the query param that's been affected. So I'm just gonna since I ran this in Seer in the Sentry UI and used the autofix, I'm just asking it to give me the information that it has on that particular issue. It's gonna go ahead and check that out for me. And yeah, as we see, we're starting to like really chain all these things together. So there's a Seer analysis results. This is effectively everything that I'm seeing here in the UI of this issue. So I now have access to that locally, so I can just stick with things here, and I'm just going to say, hey, apply that fix for me. And so it's going to do its best to grab that context, see what's going on, and go to town right here locally. So now if I go into my that was in the API, and there you have it. I have it found the fix for me. Instead of sending query from the front end, it's going to update that, and it's going to go ahead and do that. Let's have it do its thing. And so just like that, it applied the fix. I accepted it, and it gives me all this useful information about what was associated with it. And if I go back into my front end, oops, we now see that issue is no longer here because it's been fixed, it's been resolved, and that is one fantastic workflow if you ask me. If you think about how quickly you can make an impact on things, there's a little recap here in the guide. I'm going to try to get out of the way. Those are all the things that I wanted to show you. Cody's going to pick it up and get a bit deeper into some of the AI integrations, but I hope that was useful. Send any questions that you've got.
Awesome, everyone. All right, I am going to fire up sharing and we are going to move pretty fast. We got about half an hour to get through a couple things and we're going to be able to make it, I think. But definitely want to keep people interacting inside of the chat. So definitely ask questions, come in, have some good conversations there. I am firing up sharing now. Just got to disable all notifications so I don't get hammered by those. All right. Cool. So I was catching up to where Paul was in his exercise. So I've gone into the academy here. I'm gonna actually skip this one over and let us go and just get started on the next module. So Paul went through, he used MCP to fix this. Somebody asked a question that I thought was really good around MCP versus using MCP versus Sentry and Seer. These things work together, and our intention is to make it really good for these to work together. And so you should be able to have what Seer is able to do is go and pull all of this context from within Sentry and all these things that are happening inside of your actual code base into one place, right? So it's getting traces, it's pulling logs, it's pulling information from your code base, commit history. These are all things that just native cursor isn't going to know about, and like the native tooling isn't going to know about. And so when you use MCP alongside cursor, you get to pull that context through, and then you can ultimately pull the solution down and have cursor be the thing that applies it. We don't necessarily care about you applying the change using Sentry's UI, and like you have to use the PR generator that's inside of here to go and actually implement it. We just want you to be able to fix your problems fast. And so MCP and Seer together is the right way to go. You're going to get a lot more context out of things going that way. Now, I do want to highlight one thing inside of the guide that is missing. There's a little bit of a problem. I missed a part of the flow that needs to be added. And so if you go into your application where I'm at now, so if I pull back up the app, we're inside of Sentry Academy. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to clear out this search because it's broken for me. I'll click around a little bit. We have this chat window down here on the bottom that we're going to work through, but you'll notice you probably don't have this AI course builder. Now, to get that in place, we need to come into our code and go into app.tsx over here on the left. I'm going to close this side window down. We'll go into app.tsx over here on the left, and we need to bring in that course builder. So down here, your code does not have this file in place. But if you go in and you start typing in route, you should get an autocomplete because it's going to detect some of it, but you can start typing this out overall, and this will get you actually squared up to have the component in there. It didn't make it into the guide in that specific section. I'm going to go ahead and just paste this into the Zoom chat. It's not going to work out very well because it's not going to be formatted nicely, but you can copy and paste this into that application. Just make sure you do it right underneath this My Courses section so it can actually format correctly, and then you'll be able to continue on. Otherwise, you won't see the AI course builder that we have in here, and everything else will be generally sad. So cool. We've gotten our issues fixed using Seer and MCP, and now we're going to start diving into actually monitoring AI and monitoring how AI interactions happen. So we added this functionality recently in this idea of agent monitoring. And so as you make these calls out to LLMs, how do you get better information around things like prompts that are going through? How do you get information on things like token usage, tool calls? And that's what we're going to focus on here. So we're going to come in and we're going to get right into building some stuff out. So we're going to go into our server directory and into that instrument.ts. And we're going to bring in the Vercel AI integration that we've built out here. Now, we support a bunch of different ones. We support the OpenAI Agents SDK, and you can do custom instrumentation. We're adding a bunch more of these AI frameworks. Just inside of my project, we're using the AI SDK to make things easy. Now, one thing to call out, I have it set up on my side, but If you don't have an OpenAI API key set up inside your project, none of this is going to work. You have to have AI wired up. And so you'll be able to follow along, but when you start making calls, it's not going to work because ultimately you're not going to have an AI key set up. But you can watch my screen and see it happen for me. So we're going to cruise through. We're going to go into that server side instrument file. We're on the client side now, so we need to minimize all this. We'll go into the server one. We'll go into instrument. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste this from the guide directly. And we can see integrations, Vercel integration set up there. And then we're going to go in and we're going to start setting up the telemetry. This first one tells it to record inputs and outputs from the AI SDK. This next one actually goes into the tool calls and starts instrumenting those so they actually work. So we're going to go in and we're going to find this first one, which is in the chat routes. Inside of Cursor, I do Command P and I go chat/routes. Makes it really easy to navigate around. A lot of people don't use the Command P trick. I'm a fan. I'm going to do Command F to search, and I'm going to go stream text. And it's going to take me down here to line 229. Now, I don't have the instrumentation set up here yet, so I'm going to go ahead and drop down. I'm going to grab just the experimental telemetry section. I could grab all of this if I wanted to and just plop it in, but in reality, I really just want this experimental telemetry option. And I'm going to paste that in. And now this call is instrumented with the agent monitoring. And so if I go into the chat option down here in the bottom of our app, and I go in and say, tell me about the projects or the courses available, it's probably going to error the first time. Yeah, it did. We're going to go ahead and restart that in a second here just to make sure everything is good. Pretty sure I know what's going on here. Just want to make sure that it is actually that before I go and do anything crazy. Yeah, cool. So we're going to go in here, make sure that we've actually started up the right thing. We want to make sure that it actually got my OpenAI API key. So you can see it brought in those API keys there like I wanted it to. We'll refresh this again just to make sure. We'll give it another go test. Oh, I know what's wrong. This was a thing that I didn't add earlier. We have to make sure it knows about the path to actually get to all of this inside of the front end. So we've got our API URL path here set up. And if we go in here, we've got our database credentials set up there. We've got everything set up for that. So now we are going to check again in here. Zoom window is not friendly. Cool, we are good. Let's give it one more test in here just to make sure that things are actually firing off the way we want them to. Sorry about that. Not entirely sure why that's failing all of a sudden. Let's take a look. Let's see what Sentry tells us. We should have some good debugging in here anyways. So we'll go into our backend and we'll see what actually is happening on the server. Just wait a few moments for that to start loading up. Meanwhile, what I'll show you while that starts to load, what you would see if it was actually firing through right now is you would start seeing these calls come through inside of the environment. And so as we start making these calls and we start pulling in course lessons and create course, all of these different tool calls start showing up inside of Sentry. I believe this is an API key, so I'm going to stop sharing real quick so I can reload the API key. That's what's actually crashing on the back end. So 1 second, I'm going to stop sharing so no one sees my credentials.
I came for credentials. I was promised credentials.
Yeah, no one's getting credentials from me.
Curious in chat, how many folks are using applications that are using AI agents under the hood? You're right, Juan. It was a trick question. I just wanted to to see what we would get. No, it's definitely it's fun new territory for all of us. You know, you don't get many chances in your development career to sort of join the fray in this sort of way and that we all are at the same time. So it's pretty cool.
1 second. I had to grab a new key real quick because my other one expired. So just grabbing an updated key.
Yeah, Christopher, as long as you're using Seer on the Sentry front end, you don't have to worry much about copy and paste. You just click buttons. It's a different approach. Similar results.
1 second, almost good. Any other questions coming up in the chat while we that we can answer real fast while this is pulling down the key?
I haven't come across any new stuff just yet. Daniel had a question. It seems there's a shift to monitoring agents rather than just basic LLM queries. Is the idea to do all the LLM monitoring through this new agent monitoring stuff?
I think, ultimately what I think is like people want to have kind of an overall view of their entire environment and the different interactions throughout an app. And so I think when you start breaking these into different platforms, it gets a little dicey on like where the actual I'm sorry, where the it gets a little dicey on which tool you're using to monitor which thing at any given moment, right? And so I tend to like the idea of keeping these things all in like one place where I can easily find them. But I think your mileage may vary, and like ultimately you might have different like monitoring needs. But I think like having it all visible inside of one place is really helpful. I think like a good example of this is some of these tool calls that we're running inside of this example ultimately reach down to like a database call at the end of the day, right? And so if we have this set up in the right way, we're going to see a lot more information than we normally would elsewhere. And so I think I don't know, I tend to think that like having it all co-located tends to be my favorite approach to it. It makes it a lot easier to debug. Certainly, it makes it a lot easier to have good views into the entire environment. But again, your mileage may vary. You might have different reasons for separating them out. Sorry about the stumble here, y'all. We are just about good again, though. What talk about great timing for keys to expire? Don't love that.
Is there a full moon or something?
Right, right. Here we go. There we go. Everything is happy now. Cool, cool.
Interesting question about the company requiring a Jira ticket to merge code changes. If they had the Jira integration set up, can we use Seer to open a ticket, apply the changes, and open a PL all from Cursor?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, it sounds like the company requires a Jira ticket as part of the merge process for PRs. It sounds like the question is, can we use Seer to open? I suppose maybe that means a Jira ticket. Uh,
Oh, it's like interactions. So we do have a Jira integration. It's probably like one of the more popular installed integrations inside the platform. And so you can use that Jira integration to go and like configure all of these things. And it'll go in and push issues out. I don't know if it's going to go all the way down like to the end of actually doing the full configuration in that way. But you can use it for a lot a lot of this stuff. I think that would make a ton of sense. All right. Just one moment here. I feel like I've said just one moment here about 84 times now.
feel like uh, if you ever got some eyes on you, the kind of rule of thumb is whatever can go wrong will. So just be prepared for that.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I've posted a few times just a handful of links to some of the Seer docs, as well as some of the product pages on our marketing site to give a sense of what different cost tiers are to add this. Seer is available for anyone on a team planning up. Hopefully that information finds you well.
All right. Firing back up Sharon now. Cool, cool. So we're back into it. It's taken a little while for it to fully come through. So I want to talk through some of all the configurations we have in place here. So if we go back into the guide and where we were at, oops, we'll go back down here. We went in and we started instrumenting out these individual tool calls. So within our application, we have the AI SDK settings that we showed inside of our Sentry config. So if we go down to our server, oh, not in, that's not what we want. There we go. We have our Vercel integrations config here. And then inside of our individual calls, we were going in and adding the individual routes to actually consume the telemetry configs or to actually send telemetry configs up for us. So when I go into our application and we go into that chat/routes directory, we can go into stream. And we can see this setup in there right now. That's what we had done right beforehand. What that translates into is whenever that call happens, it's actually going to send through that telemetry data up into Sentry. So I can come in, I can see LLM calls from the 22nd. So it hasn't updated with stuff from just now when we were testing. But I can come in here and I can see all of those calls and a lot of detail around what's happening inside of every one of them. So the individual LLM calls, token usage, the tool calls themselves. I can also come in and click on these and I can start to see the interactions across what was going on at that given time. So right here, these are errors that are happening. So these are the errors that we were just experiencing a few moments ago when it was trying to make the calls. And I can see the information that's coming through. So like the system prompt going out, as well as what was actually happening in the background when it was actually making that call. So you get a lot more information here. And if I go up to view the full trace, I can come in and I can see everything that's happening throughout all of the interactions, all the way from the front end down to the back end, and then obviously like downstream into the database also. So there's a ton of information that this gives around how LLMs are performing across the board that makes it really easy to start to debug the different interactions that are happening inside of it. We're cruising down to the last 10 minutes of this, so we have to skip through a little bit of the guide, but you'll have the guide and the environments are available for you to go ahead and explore. Effectively, what we go in and do throughout the rest of this is we set up that instrumentation against every one of the tool calls, and then we move through debugging and like being able to show the individual responses, as well as instrument out a whole new like course generator. So we bring this in so we can actually instrument this against a course generation tool also. So this will go through, it'll actually build out a course for you. And then we go in and we are able to pull out the information back and actually look at it and see what the response codes were. We can see what the prompts were that went into it. And so as you start trying to debug what tool calls are being made that are resulting in things inside of your applications, this is a great way to be able to see it. So yeah, sorry about the delay there on getting that set up. Did not expect the API key to to reset like that so late in the game, but this is how things go. So now we're going to cruise in. We're going to talk a little bit about our Sentry's PR review. Now I'm going to switch back around in repo configs real quick because I had switched into a different one to test that out, see if I could figure out what was going on. So I'm going to go back into workshops here, and I'm going to relaunch our current workshop that we were in to test against. Great. So we recently released PR review as well as test generation as part of Seer. So you can install this package, and as you pull PRs against your repo, Sentry will go out and do review on those. And so we're going to run through getting this actually set up. But we're going to do it in a little bit of a funner way. I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab this code, and I'm going to actually have Cursor go and instrument out a new route for us. So I'm going to come in to the chat option up top here, if I can get to it. And I'm going to use the prompt that I've got inside of that guide to help me out. So I'm going to grab this prompt. I'm going to paste it in. And then I'm going to give it the actual endpoint here. And what this is going to do is it's going to go and create a new tool call against my application. So I'll fire this off. And Cursor will go and generate this out. And that's like one of my favorite ways to go and continue building against things inside of my applications. It's going to go in and find where my tool calls are at. It's going to instrument a new version of that. It's actually doing it in the wrong directory right now, so I need to switch us into the right one. Here we go. Grab this whole call again. And we're going to switch to the other window. And run it in here instead. Now, while this goes off and chews on building us a new API endpoint, we'll head back into our guide. And this guide will actually take us into setting up the AIPR review. So I'm going to come in here and make sure it's actually configured inside of my project, which it is. So I've got this enabled inside of Sentry. And then I'm going to go and install the Seer by Sentry GitHub app for my application. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go to configure. I'm going to choose my GitHub repo here. Choose install. And now I have this available inside of my projects to use against any of my repos. So I can start calling out to this inside of PRs that I'm making inside of my applications. So by now, I think we should have a new endpoint created. Looks like it's finishing it up right now. It's going in and it's wiring it up to make a tool call out to a tool call through OpenAI that will go and create new courses inside of our application. It's updating the prompt, so the prompt will know about these new tool calls to call. So all this is not Sentry side. This is Cursor going and building out the endpoints to actually make the LLM calls behind the scenes. But ultimately, we're going to want to PR this in, and we're going to want to use Sentry to review it, and that's what we're going for here. So it's done. It's created it. We could see where it's updated the prompt for that. I'm going to go ahead and create this as a new branch inside of my personal repo. So I'm going to come down here, go new branch. I'm going to name this one feature new course creation endpoint. In the guide, I think I have this all done as part of command line, but I'm just going to do it here for simplicity's sake. Now, there's obviously a whole bunch of stuff we've done. You would normally want to scope your changes down to just specific areas. In this case, I'm just going to grab everything and send all of it up. And so we're going to go new course creation and all instrumentation. I'm going to commit that. I will push this up. It's going to need to publish a new branch. But now when I go back into my browser, if I go and hit my repo and I go check out this workshop specifically, we're going to see a new branch is available here. I'll do a quick pull request. I think I even was kind and included some good notes here that we can use. Lost it. There it is. I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to create this pull request. And now I can come in and I can point it at Sentry and I can say review my PR. We get the nice little acknowledgement from Sentry that it's going to start reviewing. And what it's going to do is it's going to look through all of those changes, which is going to take a while because there's so many in this one. But it's going to look through all of those changes and bring in recommendations based off of what's found. So some of that might be syntax issues, it might be code clarity issues, it might be actual bugs and problems inside of the implementation. It's going to look at all of that and pull all of this into a summary that we can go in and we can start committing off of. And so it's a good way to have kind of this like junior developer there making sure that everything is like good inside of your code, or at least another developer who's looking over your shoulder to make sure the stuff that we're building is right. It takes a little bit, just again with the larger changes. If we had just done it scoped down to just that one, it would be much faster. But because we committed so many changes at once, there's a lot of things in motion here that it's going to have to go through and clean up, or it's gonna, not clean up, but actually get information back on. If we switch back into our guide, we can start to see what that actually ends up looking like. So we're right here where we've gone through and we've gotten the review my PR step going, but it'll start coming back with recommendations. So like in my testing environment, I had put all of this in directly in the initialization. It comes in and talks about shouldn't be exposed client side. Sentry DSNs aren't that secret, so that one's not one we're really worried about. But it will go through and warn you on some of that and find areas that need to be cleaned up. We can also do test generation. Test generation is awesome because it'll go through and look at your changes and say, hey, which one of these can I create good tests around that we could then have as part of our project for unit testing, which makes it just a lot easier to get these scaffolded out really fast. And so again, these two things are brand new inside the environment. Everyone can go and try these out right now. We'd love for you to set these up inside of your projects. Give us feedback. We'd love to hear how if you're using any sort of PR review, how you'd want to use it, and how you'd like it consumed. But it's definitely a cool feature. Makes it really easy to get good insights into what you've actually built out. So yeah, a couple stumbling blocks along the way. This was a good one though. There's a lot of ground covered overall. But we have about 2 minutes left. I'm gonna let that run in the background. Can answer a couple of questions real quick as we start to wrap up. While we're waiting for some questions, I'm gonna pop in and take a look and see if we can figure out why our old chat component was not working. Doesn't sound like anyone's jumping up with questions though. Is there anything out in the ether?
I haven't seen anything that we could address directly. I'm not sure if we mentioned it earlier, but in complete side note, but if you notice in the guide that you all are looking at in the bottom right corner, there's a module there to report a bug, and that is actually an underused Sentry feature to pull in user feedback, which can also be populated into your dashboard. So if you find any issues in the guide, feel free to send us a little report on that.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Really appreciate everyone joining up today. This was a lot of fun for us. I'm gonna go debug why we're having some problems inside of there, but I feel like we got a lot of ground covered. One thing I'll show real quick from one of my own personal projects. If you want to see what it looks like as you start scaling up the amount of calls, I'll go into one of my tools here. You can see if we go into insights and into AI for this one, you can see inside of this project that I have, I'm using multiple different models. So you can see things like I'm calling GPT-4o Mini, I'm calling Grok 4, I'm calling Sonnet. So you can see comparisons for those. You can see token usage against all of those, so you can start to understand which systems are a little bit more hungry for tokens. I can see tool call information across all of those, so like understanding which ones are actually being called against any of them. And so it makes it really easy to start doing these comparisons across both ones. Now, somebody asked earlier about like monitoring for this kind of stuff versus doing it natively inside of some of the LLM providers. If we go into like, for example, my one of my project calls here, and I do showing a full trace, I've got a ton of database calls in here, and you're not going to get this kind of visibility inside of something that's only paying attention to your LLM. In this case, I'm able to see the calls that led to this. I'm able to see how the agent was invoked and how that relates down to the database calls that happened behind it. And so I think there's a lot of information you get out of this integration that you're not going to get elsewhere. All right, everyone. This was a ton of fun. Really happy about it. Would love to hear from you. If you have any feedback, anything you want to see in future ones, let us know.